Let's start with a surprising fact. 1 cup of cooked kale contains more absorbable calcium than a cup of milk. Now, if that caught your attention, good. Because for decades, milk has been the gold standard for bone health. We've been told to drink milk for strong bones, almost like a biological commandment. But here's what the latest research shows. Not only are there plant-based foods that outperform milk in calcium absorption, they also come with powerful compounds that enhance muscle function, reduce inflammation, and protect the brain as we age. So this isn't just about bones. It's about movement, strength, stability, and vitality, especially after 50, when muscle mass and bone density begin to decline more rapidly due to sarcopenia and age hormonal shifts. The body doesn't just need calcium. It needs calcium that gets used. It needs cofactors like vitamin K2, magnesium, and boron. It needs nutrients that support osteoblast activity, bone building, while taming osteoclast overactivity, bone breakdown. And perhaps most importantly, it needs food sources that don't create a hidden burden on the gut, kidneys, or hormones. In this episode, we're going to unpack the science behind which food contains more bioavailable calcium than milk, and why it's far better for building and preserving both muscle and bone strength. We'll explore how calcium signaling affects muscle contraction, what nutrients actually help your body retain calcium instead of excreting it, and which overlooked foods, many of them inexpensive and easy to find, can help you stay strong, mobile, and pain-free well into your later decades. We'll break down the best times to eat calcium-rich foods to maximize absorption, why milk may not be the best choice for everyone, especially if you're over 40, and how one specific food, often ignored or underappreciated, can rebuild strength faster, support neuromuscular coordination, and even protect your cognitive health. By the end of this video, you'll walk away with clear tools, not just for getting more calcium, but for getting the right kind of calcium into the right places in your body. This is about building a stronger you. One choice, one habit, one meal at a time. For decades, milk has been positioned as the undisputed champion of calcium. A glass of it delivers about 300 milligrams. That's true. But what's rarely mentioned is that your body doesn't absorb all of it. In fact, studies published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition show that only about 30% of the calcium in cow's milk is actually absorbed by the body. Why? Because calcium absorption is a complex biochemical process that depends on how well a food source is digested, what other compounds are present, and the body's hormonal and nutrient status at the time of ingestion. Let's break this down. First, there's competition in the gut. Calcium competes for absorption with other minerals, magnesium, zinc, even iron. If you take in too much calcium all at once, especially in the presence of certain anti-nutrients or dietary acids, a large portion just gets excreted. Second, dairy can increase urinary calcium loss. That may sound counterintuitive, but it's backed by research. A study from Harvard tracked over 70,000 women and found no protective effect of high milk intake against hip fractures. One proposed mechanism is that animal proteins in milk may increase the body's acid load, causing the body to buffer it by releasing calcium from bones and then flushing it out in urine. This is still debated, but it suggests that more calcium intake doesn't always mean more bone retention. And third, not everyone processes dairy the same way. As we age, many people develop reduced levels of lactase, the enzyme needed to digest lactose. This can lead to gastrointestinal discomfort, inflammation, and even malabsorption of nutrients, including calcium. The irony here is that the very food meant to strengthen the body might be subtly weakening it over time, especially if your gut doesn't tolerate it well. So here's the critical insight. Calcium content alone means nothing without context. A food could contain 500 milligrams of calcium, but if your body only absorbs 20%, you're only getting 100 milligrams. Compare that to a plant-based food with 150 milligrams of calcium and a 60% absorption rate. Now that's 90 milligrams. Suddenly, that low calcium food is neck and neck with milk. and comes without the digestive or inflammatory trade-offs. Here's what the research shows. The real game changer is calcium bioavailability, the rate and extent to which calcium enters your bloodstream and is deposited in your bones or used by your muscles. So the next time you think about bone health, don't just ask how much calcium am I getting, ask instead, is my body actually absorbing and using this calcium or just flushing it out? A simple tool to apply is this: spread your calcium intake out across the day in smaller amounts, ideally under 500 mils per meal. This reduces competition and increases your absorption rate. Combine it with foods rich in magnesium and vitamin D, and you set the stage for far more effective calcium utilization. Milk isn't inherently bad, but it's not the default solution either. Especially as we get older, our digestion, hormonal environment, and nutrient needs evolve. So should our sources of calcium. So if milk isn't the most efficient source of calcium, what is? You might be surprised to learn that certain leafy greens, especially kale, bok choy, and turnip greens, have calcium absorption rates that far exceed milk. Let's look at the numbers. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition compared calcium absorption across different foods. The researchers found that the calcium absorption rate from milk hovered around 30%, but bok choy, over 50%, kale, around 59%. These vegetables aren't just packed with calcium, they deliver it in a form your body can actually use more efficiently than milk. Why is that? It comes down to something called oxalates, compounds found in many plant foods that can bind to calcium and block its absorption. High oxalate greens, like spinach and beet greens for instance, have a lot of calcium on paper, but very little of it gets absorbed. In fact, only about 5% of the calcium in spinach makes it into your bloodstream. By contrast, low oxalate greens like kale, bok choy, collards, and mustard greens have much lower oxalate levels, meaning their calcium stays available during digestion. Here's what's even more powerful. These greens don't come with the baggage of dairy, no casein, no saturated animal fat, no lactose. Instead, they bring along magnesium, vitamin C, potassium, and plant polyphenols, all of which support bone formation and reduce inflammation. Imagine this like a team sport. Calcium is the star player, but without magnesium, vitamin K1, and other micronutrients, it can't do its job. And these greens, they bring the whole team. What's happening in your body when you eat these? When you ingest calcium from low oxalate greens, it moves through the gut in a bioavailable form. The calcium ions are absorbed through active transport mechanisms, helped along by vitamin D. Once in your bloodstream, they support osteoblast activity, the very cells that lay down new bone. But that's not all. These vegetables also contain nitrate compounds, which boost nitric oxide production. That supports better blood flow to muscle tissue, enhances oxygen delivery, and improves post-exercise recovery. Nitrate is, in other words, these greens support bone strength and muscle performance. So what's the protocol? Aim to include 1 to 2 cups of cooked low oxalate greens daily, rotating between kale, bok choy, collards, and mustard greens. Cooking them reduces volume but concentrates nutrients, making them easier to eat in large enough quantities. Pair them with a healthy fat like olive oil or avocado to enhance absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like K1, which also supports calcium retention in bone. And, if possible, eat them earlier in the day. Your parathyroid hormone, which regulates calcium absorption, tends to follow a diurnal rhythm. Mornings and early afternoons are often better windows for nutrient uptake. Have you noticed how some foods just energize you differently without the crash or fog that heavier meals create? These greens are one of those rare foods that make you feel lighter, stronger, and sharper. And if this insight is helping you reframe how you think about nutrition, consider subscribing. This channel is here to help you build the knowledge and systems that transform your health, one smart habit at a time. When we think about calcium, we often picture bones, but the truth is, calcium is just as essential for your muscles, including your heart, as it is for your skeleton. Here's what the research shows. Calcium is the trigger that makes your muscles contract. Inside every muscle cell, there are two proteins, actin and myosin, that slide across each other to create contraction. But they don't move on their own. Calcium acts like a switch. It binds to a regulatory protein called troponin, which then allows the muscle fibers to engage. So when calcium levels are low or poorly regulated, your muscles may feel weak, shaky, or slow to recover. And over time, this dysfunction leads to reduced mobility, poor balance, and higher injury risk. Especially as we age, the coordination between bone, muscle, and nerve becomes even more critical. What many people miss is that bone and muscle health are biologically linked. They don't just coexist, they communicate. They share growth signals, they respond to the same nutrients, and they decline together with age, a phenomenon researchers call osteosarcopenia, the combined loss of bone and muscle mass. That's why simply taking calcium isn't enough. You need a nutrient matrix, one that supports both mechanical strength and neuromuscular function. Let's talk cofactors. Magnesium is the mineral that helps shuttle calcium into cells and out when it's time to relax the muscle. It keeps calcium in check, preventing spasms or calcification. Vitamin D increases calcium absorption in the gut and promotes its transport to bones and muscles. Vitamin K2 helps direct calcium away from arteries, where it doesn't belong, and into bones, where it does. Potassium helps reduce urinary calcium loss, preserving your body's stores. And boron, a trace mineral, supports bone metabolism and hormone regulation, especially estrogen and testosterone, both of which are crucial for maintaining lean mass. So here's a simple framework. Think synergistically. You don't just want calcium, you want calcium plus the team it works with. A powerful combination looks like this: cooked kale or bok choy for calcium and potassium, pumpkin seeds or almonds for magnesium, fatty fish like sardines or eggs for vitamin D, and a small serving of fermented foods like natto or aged cheese for vitamin K2. What's happening in your body when you get this right, you're not just preserving bone, you're reinforcing the whole scaffolding of strength. Your ligaments and tendons stay more elastic, your posture improves, and you're far less likely to suffer a fall or fracture, which after age 60 becomes one of the most dangerous health risks of all. Have you ever noticed how older adults who stay strong and mobile seem to carry themselves differently, with energy, confidence, even youthfulness? That's not just mindset, it's cellular integrity. One actionable tip: try to strength train at least twice per week using resistance bands or light weights. Why? Because mechanical loading, the stress placed on bone by contracting muscle, is one of the most potent signals for bone remodeling. In other words, your bones get stronger when your muscles pull on them. So don't think of bone health and muscle health as separate goals. They're one and the same. And the nutrients that support one support the other. You might already be eating the right foods, rich in calcium, magnesium, and supportive nutrients. But here's something most people overlook. When you eat, those foods may be just as important as what they are. Calcium absorption is not a constant process. It's governed by hormonal rhythms, digestive function, and even your level of physical activity. And once you understand these rhythms, you can time your intake to dramatically improve how your body uses calcium. Let's start with one key hormone, parathyroid hormone, PTH. This hormone helps regulate calcium levels in the blood. When calcium drops, PTH rises, drawing calcium from your bones, increasing absorption in the gut, and reducing excretion by the kidneys. But here's what's fascinating. PTH itself follows a circadian rhythm. According to research published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, PTH levels tend to peak at night. That might sound like a good time to load up on calcium, but here's the nuance. At night, calcium is less likely to be absorbed effectively through the gut and more likely to be redistributed from bone due to low digestive activity and low vitamin D production. This means the ideal window for calcium-rich meals is earlier in the day, particularly at breakfast or lunch, when stomach acid is higher, digestive enzymes are more active, and your body is primed for nutrient uptake due to daytime hormonal balance. Think of it like this. Just as your brain is more alert during the day, your gut is more absorbent. Now, there's another critical factor. Avoid competing nutrients during high calcium meals. For example, iron and calcium share the same absorption pathways. So if you're taking an iron supplement or eating iron-rich meat, avoid pairing it with a high calcium food. Similarly, high doses of caffeine and sodium can interfere with calcium retention, increasing urinary excretion. One study found that each 150 milligram of caffeine, about 1 strong cup of coffee, can cause the loss of 5 milligrams of calcium in urine. It's not massive, but over time, especially if you're not replenishing, it adds up. So here's your actionable protocol. Eat calcium-rich foods like low-oxalate greens, sesame seeds, or fortified tofu with your first or second meal of the day. Avoid pairing them with iron-rich meals or high doses of caffeine. Add a small amount of healthy fat like olive oil, tahini, or avocado to enhance absorption of fat-soluble nutrients like vitamin K2. And if you supplement with calcium, never take more than 500 milligrams at a time. That's the threshold beyond which absorption efficiency drops significantly. Have you ever eaten a nutritious meal and felt mentally sharper or more energized afterward? That's not placebo. The way your body processes nutrients is time sensitive, and getting it right builds momentum for everything, from mood and energy to recovery and longevity. And if you're finding this information practical and empowering, hit that subscribe button. It tells the algorithm you're here for real science, and it helps this channel grow so we can keep bringing you grounded, transformative tools like this one. So far, we've talked about what supports calcium absorption and bone strength, but to complete the picture, we need to address what quietly works against you. Because here's the hard truth. Even if you're eating enough calcium, you might still be losing it faster than you realize through everyday habits and foods that deplete your reserves or block your ability to absorb and retain calcium in the first place. Let's start with excess sodium. The typical modern diet is loaded with salt, not just from table shakers, but from processed foods, breads, condiments, and packaged snacks. Studies from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition have shown that for every 2,300 mils of sodium you consume, you can lose around 40-60 mils of calcium in your urine. That means a high sodium diet may literally be flushing calcium out of your body. Next, consider caffeine. As mentioned earlier, caffeine modestly increases urinary calcium excretion. A few cups of coffee a day isn't catastrophic, especially if you're getting enough calcium and magnesium, but chronically high intake, think 4+ cups daily, without adequate mineral support can tilt your balance over time. Then there's excessive animal protein without enough alkalizing vegetables. While protein is essential for muscle and bone repair, diets high in acid-forming foods like red meat and cheese can create a mild metabolic acidosis. The body buffers this acid with calcium salts, often leaching them from the bones. This idea, known as the acid-ash hypothesis, is still debated, but a large body of observational data suggests that a high-protein diet needs to be balanced with plenty of potassium-rich plant foods like sweet potatoes, spinach, and avocados to avoid bone loss. Also important, alcohol. Regular alcohol consumption interferes with osteoblast activity, the cells responsible for bone formation, and also reduces absorption of calcium and vitamin D. Over time, heavy alcohol use becomes a major risk factor for osteoporosis and muscle wasting. Let's not forget phosphoric acid found in many soft drinks, particularly colas. This compound disrupts the calcium-phosphorus ratio in your blood, making it harder for your body to deposit calcium in bone. Multiple studies have linked frequent cola consumption to lower bone mineral density, especially in postmenopausal women. Now let's touch on a behavioral piece: sedentary lifestyle. You can eat the perfect diet, but if you're not loading your bones and muscles with physical stress, walking, lifting, stretching, you're not signaling your body to maintain strength here. Inactivity tells your body, We don't need strength here, and your muscles and bones respond accordingly by shrinking. So, what's the protocol to protect your calcium reserves? Minimize ultra-processed foods. They're the largest source of hidden sodium and phosphorus. Keep caffeine to under 400 milligrams per day, ideally spaced away from calcium-rich meals. If you eat meat, balance it with greens and root vegetables to neutralize acid load. Limit alcohol to no more than 1 drink per day, and ideally have at least 3 alcohol-free days per week. And most importantly, move your body regularly. Just 20-30 minutes of daily resistance or impact-based movement can increase bone density and improve calcium retention. Have you noticed how the strongest 70S and beyond often have 2 things in common? They eat deliberately and they move daily. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency and understanding how your daily choices, even small ones, either deposit strength into your body or quietly drain it away. So now we come to the big reveal. The food that contains more absorbable calcium than milk supports bone and muscle health and brings along a host of synergistic nutrients. That food is sesame seeds. Yes, these tiny, unassuming seeds pack a punch when it comes to calcium. Just 2 tablespoons of whole sesame seeds contain around 175 to 190 milligrams of calcium. And when eaten in the form of sesame paste, also known as tahini, the bioavailability goes up even further because the grinding process breaks down the seed coat, making nutrients easier to access. But what makes sesame seeds truly exceptional is that they don't just provide calcium. They deliver the co-nutrients your body needs to use that calcium effectively. Let's break it down. Magnesium. Sesame seeds are one of the richest plant sources of magnesium, critical for calcium transport and neuromuscular function. Phosphorus helps with bone matrix development, the protein scaffolding that calcium binds to. Zinc supports bone turnover and helps maintain bone mineral density. Healthy fats. The unsaturated fats in sesame improve nutrient absorption and reduce systemic inflammation. Lignans. These are plant polyphenols that support hormonal balance, which is key for preserving bone mass, especially in postmenopausal women. In fact, a study published in the International Journal of Rheumatic Diseases found that daily sesame seed consumption for just 6 weeks significantly reduced inflammation markers and improved physical function in osteoarthritis patients. That's powerful evidence that sesame isn't just a source of minerals, it's an active compound in restoring joint health and muscular resilience. Here's what's happening in your body when you consume sesame regularly. You're getting calcium in a naturally buffered anti-inflammatory package, without the blood sugar spike of processed foods, without the casein of dairy, and without the oxalates of spinach. And you're feeding your body a daily dose of mineral synergy. So what's the protocol? Add 1-2 tablespoons of tahini or ground sesame seeds daily. You can stir it into oatmeal, blend it into smoothies, or use it as a salad dressing base. If using whole seeds, toast them lightly and grind them. This improves digestibility. Combine with vitamin C-rich foods like lemon juice or bell peppers to enhance mineral uptake. Pair with leafy greens or legumes for an even broader nutrient spectrum. Have you ever noticed how certain traditional cuisines like Middle Eastern or East Asian diets consistently feature sesame? There's wisdom in that. These cultures have long understood something science is now proving. Strong bones don't come from just one nutrient or one food group. They come from nutrient synergy, balance, and absorption. And this is a food that costs very little, stores well, and can be integrated easily into your daily routine. No pills, no side effects, just food that works. If you're looking for a single upgrade that can improve your calcium status, support your muscles, and enhance your joints, this is it. So let's recap the core insights from today's science-backed journey and why they matter. You've learned that milk is not the only or even the most efficient source of calcium. Its bioavailability is limited, and for many people, it can come with side effects that compromise long-term bone and muscle health. Absorption matters more than content. That single shift in perspective changes everything. Then we explored the powerful alternative. Low-oxalate greens like kale and bok choy. These vegetables deliver more usable calcium per bite than milk, and they come with a team of supportive nutrients, magnesium, potassium, antioxidants that enhance muscular coordination, lower inflammation, and protect the brain. We connected the dots between bone and muscle, two tissues that age together and depend on shared nutrients. Strengthening one means strengthening the other. And we looked at the biochemical signals like calcium synaptic contraction and osteoblast stimulation that make it all work. You discovered that when you eat your calcium-rich foods influences how well your body uses them. Early in the day, when stomach acid is higher and your parathyroid rhythm is optimal, you'll absorb more. Avoiding calcium overload, caffeine, and competing minerals at the wrong times keeps your internal chemistry in balance. We also expose the hidden calcium thieves, excess sodium, alcohol, phosphoric acid in sodas, and sedentary living. These slowly erode your bone bank, even if your intake looks good on paper. Awareness is your first line of defense. And finally, we spotlighted one of the most powerful, affordable, and accessible foods for bone and muscle health, sesame seeds, especially in the form of tahini. Rich in calcium, magnesium, and lignans, they deliver a complete nutritional package that supports skeletal resilience and muscular vitality. So what's the one thing you can do today? Try this. Add 1 tablespoon of tahini to your lunch or breakfast. Pair it with a cup of lightly cooked kale or bok choy, a squeeze of lemon, and a drizzle of olive oil. You've now got a meal that delivers absorbable calcium, enhances neuromuscular performance, lowers inflammation, and protects your bones, all without dairy. The beauty of this approach is that it's not extreme. It's not a crash diet. It's not a pill promising miracles. It's just your biology working better because you're finally giving it what it actually needs in the right form, at the right time, with the right support. If there's one message I hope you walk away with today, it's this. You have more control than you think. Your bones aren't crumbling because of age alone. Your strength isn't vanishing because of bad genetics. There are tools, real, proven, daily tools that can protect your structure, power your movement, and help you feel strong and stable for decades to come. And if this kind of calm, science-backed insight is something you want more of in your life, I invite you to join this growing community. Like this video, leave a comment about the one food or habit you're going to focus on this week, and subscribe. We're here to help each other get stronger, intelligently, consistently, and for the long haul. Because longevity isn't about just living longer, it's about moving with power, standing tall, and aging on your own terms. You've got the knowledge, now it's time to put it into practice.